There we go. Well, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
Cool. Let's get started then. So happy to kick off this leadership series here with Ali, our CEO, and Daniel, our CMO. Thank you all for joining, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Let's go over first some content we want to cover, and then we'll roll with the questions afterwards. Sounds good?
Amazing.
Cool. All yours,
Cool.
Ali.
Yeah. So I'll kick it off. Thanks, Sophie, for setting this up. Very excited that we have 200 people here with us. Sophie, maybe you can send a message in general also, get some more people to join.
Will
But
do. Will
yeah,
do.
it's
Will do.
great to see everyone here. We're setting up a leadership series just to kind of go over some basics of micro1 and then really just to answer questions and get closer to our experts. So we appreciate everyone joining this first one. So let me just start with like a very quick high level of micro1. Of course, probably everyone here already has a good understanding of what we do, but let me just start with like a very quick overview of everything that we do, and then we'll jump into some job types that we have and a few other kind of topics we want to cover, and then we'll get into some questions that we have set up based on what everyone asked in that thread. So first off, quick high level at Micro1 is we're building the AI platform for human intelligence. So the main thing that we do is we vet highly skilled people, PhDs, professors, industry experts across lots of different domains, medical, finance, legal, but also many other domains, and we help train frontier large language models. And there's kind of two pillars to our data engine. First is our AI recruiter, which sources and vets all the amazing experts that are here. And then the second is our data platform, which is once you start a job, it's where you log in and you actually create the data, which the labs need for post training and for model improvements. So that's the quick high level. I'll jump into some of the job types that we have, and then we get some more details. So the job types are they come in kind of three different categories of evals and human data, which then results into three types of candidates, and then we'll describe some of the categories of specific jobs as well. So the three data type categories that we have are first frontier evals, which is the way to think about frontier evals is the human data and evaluations that are created to train foundational models. So these are all the top AI labs that are building the kind of base models that they're pre-training and post-training. And the frontier evaluations, usually across the kind of specialty domains, help improve these model capabilities. That's the most kind of important part of our data vertical. It's one where we have most of our customers in, and of course, therefore, most of our experts as well. The second is a little bit of a newer vertical for us actually that we got into about 3-4 months ago, and it's picking up pretty quickly. We're actually very grateful to have almost 1,000 experts working in the second vertical already, which is real world robotics data. So the way to think about this is robots are obviously not that good yet, so they can't actually do much other than walk and kind of like very basic tasks. So humans first have to train robots in those very basic kind of generalist tasks. So the type of work that we're doing right now is essentially candidates are doing work tasks that they already do at their home, and they're getting paid for those tasks to train a robot to help them, do those tasks in the future. So the type of work right now in real world robotics is much more kind of generalist work, and eventually, in the fullness of time, it will kind of transition to this expert level data over a long period as well. And then lastly, we have contextual evals. This one's newer and an industry that is sort of just emerging now, which is the way to think about this is as enterprises develop agents of any type, they need very niche evaluations that has that considers deeply the context of their enterprise. And what it means to consider the context of your enterprise, essentially the all the workflows that any given enterprise has, any kind of software connections they have, any admin portal tools that they have, and how the agent must kind of interact with those admin portal tools. Those are called contextual evals, and they come across lots of different domains as well. So Daniel, maybe you could explain the kind of generalist specialist versus expert categories?
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. Um, there's still a lot of demand for generalist talent, but sort of what we're seeing now, and we'll dive into this in some of the Q&A that we have scheduled, is there's sort of increasing and I guess significantly increasing demand for expert talent. And so whether that's being having niche expertise in any specific field, whether that's legal, competitive programming, medical, whatever you could think of, life sciences, um, that's where a ton of the demand is coming from now, and that's specifically what we're looking for. Um, that being said, sort of the foundation of how models were originally trained and how they're still being trained today is from generalist talent and sort of data labeling and data annotation that we're all sort of familiar with. Um, yeah, I'll kick it back to Ollie because you wanted to expand on that, but
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, there's basically the three categories Daniel just said: generalists, specialists, and experts.
yep.
And all three types we have lots of great candidates for. Experts definitely growing the fastest. Experts you could think of it as, sort of highly skilled, mainly PhDs and industry experts that are very experienced. So again, doctors, lawyers, finance experts. These are kind of the three examples. Specialist is more so niche kind of skills in a very specific domain that is less kind of broad economically. So like one example would be voice experts. We have lots of voice actors and phonetics experts and kind of transcription experts, and this would fall into specialists. And then generalist is a lot more the more typical kind of data annotation, which is also growing. Of course, a little bit slower than kind of expert demand, but generalist is also still a very important part of model training overall.
Cool.
Cool.
Continue then.
Cool. So yeah, I think we could touch a little bit on what experts can expect as they start to work on a project. So maybe we'll run through the full funnel and then what happens after you actually complete the AI interview. So the first step is experts, sign up on our platform. They either do so generally or they sign up through a specific job. They talk to Zara as the first step. There's a conversational interview that, assesses experts on their skills as well as the skills the job requires. And then there's usually some sort of human data exercise as well after the conversational, where there's a task that simulates what the experts will do on the job. And both these things help determine possible fits. And then of course we have human recruiters that ultimately look at those reports to see who is kind of best fit for any given job. Once there's um, once there's an expert that's chosen for a specific job, our talent operations team comes in and basically sends, an offer to an expert, as well as email with onboarding instructions after the offer is accepted. And at this point, experts are usually already in our Slack, just like everyone on this call already is in our Slack. So it makes it a lot easier for our talent ops team to kind of reach out and say, hey, there's a role that matches your skills perfectly. Here's the instructions. And then experts sign the contract. And then from there, usually there's access given for a micro1 expert email, which is something along the lines of, your name at expert.micro1.ai. And then there's a time tracking tool that's called Hubstaff that folks get access to. And then you get added to Slack channels, which of course are very confidential, and we always keep all the information siloed in those channels, and we cannot discuss them in kind of public channels such as general. But then after that, there's a payroll setup, and then human data managers, which are essentially, um, folks that are very familiar with the human data space, essentially become a pair with an expert to help them navigate the human data world and kind of start on the project. And once that happens, you log into our data platform, or in some cases, the customer's data platform to actually start the tasks. Cool. And yeah, so maybe I'll pass to Daniel for some referral program.
Yeah, this is more so of an announcement. And we did announce this in Slack a couple weeks ago as well, but the referral program is now live. And so this is specifically talking about talent referrals, not necessarily client referrals. Um, the payouts range anywhere from $100 to $2,000 per successful referral. and that's paid out after each candidate is or completes 20 hours of work. That's just to make sure that we retain the candidate. Um, yeah, it's as simple as grabbing a link from the portal, signing up, grabbing a link, and then sharing it with your network. And the payout range is obviously very significant from 100 to 2K. And that's just based on the difficulty of sourcing for specific roles. And so if we're looking at, like we're mentioning before, generalist roles, typically there's a much higher volume of those. And so the payout per referral is lower. But if we're trying to source, Harvard professors or PhDs in specific realms, then the payout will be significantly higher. So all of those are available in the dashboard once you log in, and then you can track the full funnel of the candidates that you refer also within the dashboard.
Great. Cool.
Cool.
I think we covered the content, so we can jump into the questions that they pre-submitted. So I'll share with you guys the ones that they shared on Slack already and people have voted, and then if we have time, we can cover some others here on the Q&A, right? So the first one is, what does the path look like for experts who are interested in eventually joining micro1 as part of the internal team? Do you
Yeah,
want to
happy
take
to
this one?
take this one. Yeah, happy to take this one. So I think there's a couple paths, right? One is, of course, you can, if you're an expert, you can just apply to a core team job, and we will consider your application uh, more seriously than if you're not an expert in already active with Micro One. So it gives you it gives you an advantage for core team roles because we love hiring from our active talent pool. And when I say expert, I mean everyone, generalists, specialists, as well as experts. We're just kind of categorizing broadly as experts. But yeah, we really love kind of assessing talent based on active jobs that they've already been on at Micro One and kind of having them join our core team when it makes sense. So you can apply to our roles, and that's really a good way to do it. I would say the path that we've seen work really well is two main things. One is you start as an expert and you are working, kind of close to full time or maybe full time hours as an expert. And then eventually the strategic project lead on the project will possibly promote you to what's called a human data manager or an expert reviewer. Those are, in some cases, those are sort of equivalent. And at that point, you're essentially helping review tasks. And of course, you may be doing some tasks as well, but mainly you're helping review tasks. And you also may be helping with operations. Usually, human data managers are kind of partly reviewing tasks for data structure, um, you know, data structure being valid, but also the content being valid, as well as helping the strategic project leads with operations. And then after that, there's kind of a path towards what's called a human data lead, which you could think of as even more operations. Human data leads are usually not really doing any more tasks or even reviewing tasks, but pretty much only helping the strategic project lead with the overall management of the project. And at that point, there's a possibility for experts to essentially join what's called our extended team, which you could think of as the kind of contractor team to Micro One's core team. And if you join our extended team, what happens is you basically join our core team Slack and you get a lot closer to the Micro One core team, which is about 80 people. And from there, you can, there's a much higher probability to eventually join the core team in any given role that makes sense. And like I said, the paths that we've seen are very common is this idea of like going from expert to human data manager to human data lead, all the way to a strategic project lead. And strategic project leads are in our core team. And there's other routes as well. Well, like one that we saw recently was someone actually jumped from expert pretty quickly to SPL, like right away. In that case, this person was kind of a finance domain expert, and we needed a finance domain expert, and so that person kind of jumped all the way. And then in some cases, you can also join as a researcher. So we've had a couple of those as well.
Great. All right, so next one is, how should experts from non-technical domains like life sciences, for example, think about transitioning into AI or tech-oriented work on the platform?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go for it.
You want to go? Okay.
Take
Sorry.
it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sure you want to jump in as well. Um, I think the response to this question is sort of in and of itself what Micro One does. And so I think the best way to think about transitioning into career in AI, or if you have a non-technical background, the best way to transition is to not worry about that transition so much because that's what micro one does. Um, so if you're skilled in life sciences or you're a lawyer, I would say the best way to transition into this field of AI training is to just focus on what you're good at and then use our data platform and our resources and our training courses and our management team to sort of leverage your expertise that you already have and hopefully you continue refining to translate that expertise into data. And so it's a very intuitive sort of transition, at least from what I've learned. And yeah, if Ollie, you have other thoughts on that as well, feel free.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only like two small things I would add is this is the first time I would say probably in human history where lots of non-technology domains are directly contributing to technology. Um, Pretty much every single domain is able to contribute very directly to, I think, the most important technology of our time, which is AGI. And so, like Daniel was saying, we're very much embracing that and allowing for really the expertise of these non-technology domains to be utilized in a very nice way to train models. So you don't have to know the technical aspects of it necessarily to help improve these models. But I think, if you are interested in it, of course, and it will help is if you if you look into what the data that you create and how it improves the models and what that kind of post-training pipeline looks like. So, I would basically try to kind of study what is post-training and how does evaluation data turn into training data, which then helps improve capabilities. There's a lot of videos, great videos. I would recommend Andre Kaparthi. Um, as like one of the main legends in this space that does really great videos. And then I think the second thing is just really diving deep into the data structure that you're going to work with and really understanding that data structure well, which kind of happens when you start the project. So I wouldn't worry about it before. Um, so
Awesome. All right. So how about how do experts typically move from part-time project to into more consistent engagements? I've seen that one a
uh,
lot on the chat too.
yeah, I think there's the first one is like, you know, transitioning ultimately to our extended or core team, as we were kind of saying earlier, there's paths for that. I would say the second way is by taking on more than one project. Of course, there's some limitations to this. We don't we never have experts on multiple labs at the same time. We silo all these kind of operations and so forth. So the project would have to be within the same AI lab, and there's kind of confidentiality limitations that you should really kind of check with the recruiter or the SPL that you're working with on whether or not you can be on multiple projects. But in most cases, you can, and we do see a lot of experts work on two, sometimes even three projects that are each 15 hours a week or so, and kind of becomes um, full time, through that.
Great. So on that note, how do clients usually decide when to like ramp up, pause, or extend the projects? And how should experts think about navigating that variability?
Yeah, so the general way that projects start is, a lab comes up with basically a data structure they believe will improve model capabilities. They'll collect some early data themselves, some very small data set themselves, or maybe within their core team, they have some domain expertise, and they'll basically have some samples. They'll see if the model's, improving, if the signals are actually working. And then once that happens, there's then a larger data collection effort that gets sent to us, which we have, recruit experts for. And then usually there's continuous testing on whether the model is continuing to improve and how useful the data is. And of course, the data quality here matters a lot as well. If experts, which micro1 experts, really do produce high quality data, then the project duration will be even longer. But I would say like my best kind of range I would give here is projects are usually 3 to 7 months or so. I know it's a bit of a broad range, but maybe the average is like 4-ish months, maybe a little bit less. Of course, this doesn't apply to a lot of projects. Some projects they end in 1 month, and of course, we're not saying all projects are 3 months, but I would say the average is probably somewhere around those. And what we try to do on our end, and of course our customers are very aligned with this, is when a certain project ends, we try to transition those experts into a different project as smoothly as we can. And of course, there's sometimes a delay and doesn't happen all the time as smooth as we'd like, but our goal is to make it, very smooth transition when a project is ramping down for another one to kind of ramp up with the same experts.
Awesome. Ali, do you think the role of the role experts play today is what you originally envisioned when you started Micro1? If it wasn't, how did it evolve based on the client needs?
Um, no, so it definitely wasn't. We when we started Micro One, I'll give the quick backstory, and then I'll say what we did initially and how we kind of got into human data. But the quick backstory is, when I was in university, I was building this software development agency. This was like 4-ish years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. And this software development agency was a very typical kind of service-oriented company, nothing special. Like we just built websites and apps for other companies. And one of the main limiting factors at this company was every time a project would come in, I had to assign engineers to that project and basically hire a bunch more engineers. And because of that, I had to interview a lot, and like a lot of my days was spent basically interviewing engineers. So long story short, I decided to build this AI screener with one of the early GPTs, which I had found out from one of my professors, Professor Peter Beal. He's a computer science professor at Berkeley, and he was, you know, he was basically in this space. He was one of the co-founders of OpenAI, and they, there was obviously they were building GPT, and so I used one of the early GPTs to build this AI screener that helped me screen engineers and basically give me a report on how they did, and I would kind of talk to the ones that did well and onboard them for projects. So that was kind of the initial internal tool that was built, which then became Micro One. And of course, the first version of Micro One was this AI screener, which then kind of ended up being this end-to-end recruitment engine. And what we were doing is selling the software. We were selling the software as a SaaS tool, which we do a little bit of that still. But we were also building a talent pool of basically like a marketplace of pre-vetted engineers. That was the initial focus. And we had startups, mainly kind of startups in SF, hiring engineers from us for their core team. So that was the initial version of Micro One, and that was a lot of fun. We worked with hundreds of engineers and had some great customers. But then we quickly realized that the the human data world needs recruitment as like has recruitment as a fundamental bottleneck. And the reason for it is the type of data was very much transitioning into expert level data very quickly. And of course, for expert level data, you need experts, and you cannot just kind of crowdsource lots of different people. You need to actually recruit those experts. And so we saw this bottleneck in the market, and all in and said, let's build this data infrastructure. And of course, the AI recruiter was still a huge part of that data infrastructure to actually recruit the experts. And now there's a lot more like data platform and our talent performance management platform and so forth. But basically, we decided to go all in on data and kind of serve this one application of our initial product that we built. And yeah, now here we are.
Great. So, since you brought this up, looking ahead, what skills do you think or what profiles do you expect to be the most like in high demand and giving experts more opportunities on the platform?
Yeah, Daniel, feel free to add on to this. I would say the three that I always repeat is finance, medical, and legal. We see a lot of demand there. I would say maybe 60% of our work is in those domains specifically. And of course, it's not just when we say like legal, for example, it's not just lawyers, it's paralegals, it's case managers, it's everything kind of adjacent to the legal field, but of course, mainly lawyers. Um, and I think those three will continue to expand. And it's funny. There was a video of me yesterday saying we have 1,000 lawyers, and we actually had to confirm that number, and we found out that we actually had above 1,000 lawyers, and we were surprised 1,000 active lawyers, and we were also surprised like internally. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I think there's a lot of experts in these three domains, but really what we see is like over time every single domain is going to become important to train models in. So anything that you do will be useful for model training. But Daniel, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the last point you just made is exactly what I was going to say is I would say literally any niche expertise you can imagine is where the demand is going to be. So like looking at lawyers, as Ollie mentioned, this is just one example. It's not being an expert in law, but you could break it down so much further to US law and then state law and then a specific practice area within that state's law, and then being like a super proficient expert in that specific niche. And then that could be applied just completely generally across any domain, whether that's legal, medical, engineering, anything you could imagine. I think that's where the demand is going to be in the future, especially as we sort of build the foundation for these models across different domains, and then the requirements are just going to become more and more niche. Um, yeah.
Cool. And Daniel, what do you think differentiates micro1 from other platforms that are offering AI training work for experts?
Yeah, I think the best use of our time wouldn't be going into like specific features that we have. Like maybe we have this auto grader that's, benchmarked at a higher level than our competitors and so forth. Um, of course, there's features that I believe we have that others don't. But I would say where we particularly excel is our ability to work with domain experts that are not from technical backgrounds. And this goes back to one of the first or second question, and sort of working with them to translate their existing expertise into these complex data sets that we're using to train and fine-tune models. Um, that's where we excel. And then separately from that, we have internal sort of metrics that we incentivize our own core team on, which is keeping our experts happy. And we have internally, we call it our expert happiness index. And so we measure this very meticulously. And I think that's sort of where we also separate is of course paying our experts well, but also keeping them happy, whether that's monetarily or just sort of fostering a positive and collaborative community. So a combination of all of those things, I would say, is what differentiates us.
Nice.
Yeah, and
All
just
right. Yeah,
sorry,
go for
Sophie,
it.
just one more point to add to that. Just to emphasize like the expert happiness index, which Daniel came up with that term. I think it's a great term. We we kind of track the basically the NPS score of experts at every point, and obviously Sophie does a great job of this at the recruitment stage, at the onboarding, once the project starts and so forth. And we, you know, after every interview, I'll give one example to kind of make this a little bit more concrete. After every interview that happens, which is thousands a day, we ask experts to rate their, experience and give us any comments that they have. And we've seen that number go from, I believe in the early days, from a 3.9 out of 5 to now a 4.5 or maybe even a 4.6 out of 5. And so as we see these kind of NPS scores come in, we make changes on our platform very directly to improve the NPS score. And you can imagine that every step of the process has a similar score, which we not only deeply care about and have our engineering team incentivized to kind of improve it, but we also have like incentive structures built around for project managers and so forth to make sure that these scores are extremely high. And this, the reality of this is that the byproduct of it is that there's higher quality data and therefore better models that come as a result.
Yeah. Ali, and do you want to share a little bit about how we measure expert performance over time and how that also influences if they get future projects?
Yeah, so we deeply care about talent performance, and we actually have a full product kind of built around we call it what we call talent performance management. Um, there is the main two things we care about is data quality and velocity. So are you creating enough data and are you doing so in a very high quality manner? And really the expert performance is just directly linked to those things. And each project has its own definition of quality. And usually the two kind of categories broadly of quality and how they're measured is um, other expert alignment. So basically peer reviews. So are your peer experts kind of aligning with what you're saying in the content of whatever data you're creating? So there's always some notion of peer reviews, and there's some notion of like errors that are left per data point that's created, and we take the kind of median of those errors. And we like to be very tactical and transparent about these things. I think no one in the industry really like explains these things, but it's important for experts to know how their quality is actually measured. So like taking the median of all the errors that you have on any given task is one example. Another one would be the alignment on like another person would basically do a subset of the tasks that you've done, and the number of tasks that they align with in terms of the same exact labels would be partly how we measure quality. So it's things like that, and per project it varies, and you'll know very transparently not only how quality is measured, but what those metrics actually are as well.
Thanks, Ali. Um, I guess last two questions so we don't go too much over time. Daniel, how do you think experts can contribute to expanding the client base through referrals or introductions or advocacy for micro 1?
Yeah. So the announcement at the beginning was for our talent referral platform. Just to be fully transparent, we're in the business of working with very large enterprises. These are the top five or so AI labs, and then something around the Fortune 100 is like what makes up our client base. We're not in the business of signing as many clients as we possibly can. And so we don't have a traditional client referral system. That being said, if anybody has ideas or introductions they want to make for us, just put me into a DM, send me a message, and we can talk about what compensation makes sense. If you want to make content for us, we're really ramping that up related to our referral program. And so, any ideas you have, this is sort of an open-ended response, and I apologize for that, but just put me into a DM and we can discuss what compensation makes sense, what the scope of the collaboration could look like.
Great.
Yeah, and
And Ali, you wanna, yeah, go for
yeah,
it.
sorry, so
Yeah.
cut you off again, but um, just one more thing that's kind of random I want to add here is Daniel and I are on Slack in the expert Slack. So you can DM us with anything you'd like. Obviously, we get a good amount of DMs, so uh, don't DM too much, but we are there, and if you need anything, you can definitely reach us at any time, and we will get back to you. But that's not the end of the call. I just wanted to add that.
Yep.
All right. Final question then, Ali. Do you want to share how micro 1 thinks about its overall product and service offering, and where do experts fit in that model?
Yeah, so similar to what we were saying, earlier, I think long term, um, every domain will be used to train models, and not only the expertise of every domain, but also all the different kind of random actions that exist within any given function in the economy that's related to that domain will be used to train models. So our goal is really to build, continue building in these three data verticals that we were saying earlier, which is what we call our realm vertical for RL environments and frontier evals, our real world robotics data, which we call our robotics lab, and then lastly, which we haven't talked about, our Cortex lab, our Cortex data vertical, which is the kind of the enterprise contextual evals. I think long term, we want to essentially build um, these environments that not only labs can kind of buy the underlying data, but more importantly, they can essentially get access to the reward model that comes as a result of this data that's created. So the way to think about a reward model is if we're building some sort of environment, let's say we're building an environment for taxes, maybe W-2 California taxes, we want to make sure that model capabilities are really good at not only answering tax questions, but also doing tax for consumers. What we would do here is obviously create a lot of expert level data, but then we would use that expert level data to create what's called a reward model, which then the foundational model companies where they have policy models, they can connect to our reward model through what we're going to kind of name as a reward model as a SaaS kind of API to improve their model capabilities over time. And in that case, we very much determine exactly, the data structures, the amount of data needed, and who are the experts working on the project. Like that becomes under our full control. And so we long term, we want to basically help build this kind of data infrastructure, which is very much will require human expertise, and the demand for human expertise for models will continue to explode in demand. I actually think, I mean, I'm biased, and this part might not be correct, but I actually think this will be the biggest market in the world in the next couple of decades, probably after the energy horizontal kind of market as a full part of GDP. This is like a really big claim, obviously, but I think the only way that digitally intelligent and physically intelligent systems will continue to improve is just structured human data in every function in the economy that exists, and that that will make it so that the spend here is just truly massive.
Great. Thank you both so much for your time to do these sessions. We'll schedule more. Thank you also for everyone that joined, over 300 people here still. So thank you all. It was great.
Let us know your feedback in the same thread. We'll love to hear what
Yeah.
you guys think about the session.
Yeah. And thanks everybody
Thank you,
for
everybody.
joining too, by the way. Yeah, it's crazy all the time zones. So I appreciate it. I know it's probably Sophie, what time is it for you?
2:41 a.m.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So everybody's yeah,
That's late.
really
All
appreciate
over the
everybody
world.
making it happen. Yeah. All
Wow.
right.
Nice. All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Good
Good
stuff.
night, good
Thanks
Bye.
morning.
everyone.
Bye.
Take care.